Hi everybody, John back again. Good to see you. Yeah, so the news here in Wales is that we're still in lockdown, and I don't know if there's any kind of indication that things are going to change anytime soon. Maybe within the next few weeks, perhaps. But shopping for records outside the traditional way is sadly not an option right now. Quite envious watching a lot of the people in other countries around the world, but particularly in England, which is just a short way away. I quite look forward to getting into that myself one day. So, not just yet. So what I'm going to do is show you records now that I've acquired in the past, since lockdown started basically, or ones that have come my way. First of all, I'm going to show this record. This is Out of Season by Beth Gibbons and Rustin Man. Rustin Man is essentially Paul Webb, who was part of Talk, and he's sort of, his sort of studio name or his stage name, he changed to Rustin Man, I suppose. I don't know why, but quite interestingly, he identified Beth Gibbons as someone that he wanted to work with and collaborate with, and they've actually done a few different projects, but this is the one that's perhaps best known. It's remastered at Abbey Road Studios, restored original artwork, includes download card, and it says it's quietly devastating. I bought this on CD many years ago, and I always think, with Talk and Portishead, maybe you've got to be in the right frame of mind or right mood for them. So when that CD arrived, I probably just wasn't. So I've had it for a while and haven't really paid it much attention. And I thought, well, I really should, because I've been on a bit of a talk buzz recently. I thought maybe I should invest a bit more time into this album. And I'm really glad that I have bought it on vinyl, because it is what you'd expect. It's sort of like the hybrid of Talk and Portishead somehow. Really nice. I'm going to put it on in the background while I talk about the rest of my records. So maybe you'll get a bit of a flavour of it in the background. Next up is a record that I've got a relationship with. This is the third Thin Lizzy album, Vagabonds of the Western World. I've had this for a long time, in different incarnations, I suppose. The original copy that I had, I believe, was just one that had sort of been left in my bedroom kicking about, for one of my older brothers. I took it with me to Portsmouth when I moved there as a student, and got to know it there, and that's where I really learned to sort of like this record, but sadly it jumped in a few places, so I think I actively put it aside somewhere, and since haven't really been able to find it, whether I discarded it or what, I just don't know. And to buy an original copy of this is, it's not cheap, and you don't see them very much. Sometimes they go for shocking prices, and of course the original does have a gatefold sleeve. Anyway, so I bought this album on CD. Let's turn this down. I bought this album on CD in the 90s when I lived in Sweden, and played it a lot in my car. Then I had an unfortunate break in my car Someone broke in and stole all of my CDs. It's funny because this wouldn't happen now. I don't think people would be interested in stealing CDs from a car, would they? But that's what happens. Yeah, then I had it on cassette. Listened to it on cassette for a while, and the cassette eventually broke. And so this is an album that I've been looking at for a long time on Amazon and toying with getting it. I would have loved to have sort of waited and bought an old copy, an original copy with the gatefold sleeve, but yeah, during lockdown I just thought, well, I'm gonna pull the trigger on this, and it was really well priced for a reissue, and it's what you'd expect. A very nicely produced reissue, 180 gram. Becca green label, beautiful, and it sounds lovely. It really does. Yeah, in terms of Thin Lizzy, for some reason this record doesn't get much of a look in. I think the reason why it doesn't get much of a look in is because it's sort of like the old Thin Lizzy, the original three-piece Thin Lizzy, with Phil Lynott, Eric Bell, and what was the drummer called Brian Downey, I think his name was. And Thin Lizzy's sort of classic period is often, pointed out as being the time where they've got Scott Gorham and the Scottish guy on the guitars, Brian Robinson. And because this falls out, so maybe that's why it so often doesn't get called or sort of looked at as being a classic Thin Lizzy album, but it really is. It's got some great tracks on here, and I would recommend anyone give this a try. By no means is it sort of, a wimpy record at all. It's not. It's really quite hard rocking. But an interesting story about this is that, originally they were a three-piece, and they sort of found fame, didn't they, when they sort of did a cover of Whiskey in the Jar. Eric Bell really didn't like that. He felt that was not what they were about. They weren't going to be doing folk music or rock versions of folk music, and he just didn't like it. But when they did do that single, it got them a lot of fame, got them onto Top of the Pops, that sort of thing. And Eric Bell was very much a musician's musician. He wasn't really a rock star, he was a musician. And it bothered him, I think, that they were... There's a bit of a paradox here. It bothered him that he was expected to perform. Because, going on Top of the Pops, for instance, would have been miming, not playing. And I guess for a musician that is perhaps the worst insult. He just basically quit and decided, I don't want to be part of this thing, so he left. Now, fortunately, Phil Lynott knew of Gary Moore, invited Gary Moore to come in and sort of step in to play the role of the guitarist, so that they could continue doing their public performances and things like that on the back of their recently released single of Whiskey in the Jar. Anyone that knows Gary Moore and his relationship with Thin Lizzy is sort of on and off. He's sort of come and gone. He sort of comes in, hangs around for a short while, and then disappears, goes and does something else. Don't know why. But so that's what happened. And because that happened, Eric Bell finished, Gary Moore popped in, left again, sort of at a crucial moment. Phil Lynott decided, we can't let this happen again. It can't keep on happening. We can't keep on losing guitarists. So he decided we're going to have two guitarists, so that if one disappears, we've got one to fall back on. And that's the story of why Thin Lizzy went on to have two guitarists, and that sort of developed their sound. But that all comes, from the reason that Eric Bell originally left while they were in this phase. I recommend this record to anyone that likes Thin Lizzy or 70s rock, it's a lovely record. Go for it. I've just watched Rob Ison show this record. Rob is been fortunate enough to have been out shopping for records in England, and he picked up a copy of this album from a record shop, I guess. This is one that, again, I've ordered on Amazon. It's a record that I've got quite a history of, really. When this album came to me, it was on cassette originally, and it's one of those albums that I plunged myself into when I was going through quite a difficult divorce. I remember listening to it on my Walkman on the train in the morning, heading into Stockholm, cold and wet winter's mornings, this is one of the albums that really gave me a lift. So, I mean, it's a kind of a 78, so it's kind of punk, and Paul Weller's really sort of got that kind of aggressive, angry edge in his voice. The band just sound really, immediate and urgent, and it kind of gave me a good kick. Great songs on here. I'm not that familiar with most of the other Jam albums. I've got many of them. In fact, I think I've got most of them. For some reason, I've always just got stuck on this record, on this album. Anyway, I went ahead and bought a copy of this from Amazon. Again, really great price. I think there's been a recent release of this, sort of in a deluxe edition. And what I notice is when that happens, the issue that's sort of hanging about sort of goes down in price because perhaps it's not in the most demand, but great record. Nicely reproduced packaging. A few hairs on here, mod cons. Been enjoying this a lot, and my kids have been quite getting into it too. Now, this is a record that I grabbed again off Amazon. It's Diana Krall, Turn Up the Quiet, released in 2017. It's a jazz record. She's a Canadian jazz pianist and singer, and I really like her. I really like her. She's got a bit of a dry voice, a bit of a husky voice, but I think she uses it to great effect. I like what she does. She's actually married to Elvis Costello. So there you go. I often think of her as a bit of an unusual character though, because if you look at her record covers and her album covers, they can be quite racy. But I get the strong feeling that she's really not a racy girl. She's not sort of all about, showing as much flesh as she can, that sort of thing. She's a musician, I think. And I often wonder, does she just embrace this whole sort of leggy covers of herself and record covers because she wants to sell records, or is she under pressure from the record companies to do that? I don't know. There's some interesting footage of her on YouTube. There she is. It's on Verve again. A few hairs on this one. It's a double album. I don't really know if it really is a double album in terms of that much music. I don't think it's a particularly long album, but it's produced, on 3 sides. Here's a blank side. There's no grooves on that. 3 sides of a record, and this is the blank side. I think, normally it would probably would fit quite well on just a single vinyl record, but this is sort of made a double album for the sound quality, and it's nice. Sadly though, when it arrived, it had this sort of seam split up here. It was a brand new record, and I don't know. I know a lot of people are very finicky about this sort of thing. A lot of people would sort of turn around and send it straight back, demand on another copy. Yeah, I wish it wasn't there, but it is. But I don't think I'd gain anything personally if I turned it around, sent it back and said send me another copy without a seam split. The only thing I would lose is however many weeks it took to get the replacement. But no, it's a nice record. So the next two are not from Amazon. This is some VCLT sent to me by John Downing. Thank you very much, John. Yeah, I don't know how many weeks ago it was now that we had this sort of thread about disco not being a dirty word, and yeah, I noticed that a lot of people were pulling out this record, and John caught on that I hadn't heard it. I don't think I have any Chic records, but I've often heard them being referenced, especially by Duran Duran. I've always been a big fan of Duran Duran, and when I was a youngster, I used to think, well, why do they keep on saying that they're influenced by Chic? I mean, there's the Noel Rodgers thing, of course. You know, he's produced some sort of milestone records with Duran Duran. But also, if you listen to this, I've spoken before about how in the Duran Duran 12-inch mixes of their singles that they really kind of experiment and create sort of groove soundscapes and sort of great things to dance to, I suppose, at the time. And you can really hear where that is sort of coming straight from here. There's moments on this record where you could almost say, wow, it sounds like Duran Duran. Of course, it was the other way around. Duran Duran sounded like Chic. I've also thought that maybe, because this sort of style disco, they used to have these occasional orchestral stabs and things like that, which is also a lot in sort of the early Duran Duran stuff at the peak of their fame, I think. And I think that they've pulled that also from what Chic do. Anyway, John, thanks very much. Really good record. There would have been a time not so long ago when I would have thought, no, that's not really one for me. But this is definitely going to sit really well in my record collection. Great record. I really enjoyed that. Thanks very much. And last but not least, this is a bit of a tatty, battered record by the Strawbs. I actually bought this record shortly before lockdown, and I came home with it in a sort of plastic bag. Just bought it from a charity shop, I think, and I put the plastic bag down and just probably forgot about it. I remembered that I bought a record some weeks after. Couldn't remember who it was by, what the record was, or even where I'd put it, and couldn't find it. And my wife managed turned it up somehow. I don't know, she's tidying up or something. And so a few weeks after I bought this, I opened the bag and found this in it. Oh wow, that's that record that I'd forgotten all about. Yeah, so the Strawbs, they're perhaps most famous for being the place where Rick Wakeman came before he joined Yes. And so this is way after Rick Wakeman's time in Yes. The gatefold sleeve. Yeah, I don't really have much good to say about it. It's not really any kind of groundbreaking kind of prog. It's a fairly mediocre, middle of the road prog album, I suppose, by a band that, quite frankly, have done their important stuff and seem to be just hanging on. It's my view anyway. Okay everybody, thanks very much. I think in my next video I'm going to show some prog, a lot of the prog that I've been listening to on my Discman. I like to walk my dog, and I like to do it when I do that. If the weather's good, go on nice long walks and listen to some lovely, you know, prog, progressive rock music, epic stuff. And yeah, I've actually purchased quite a lot of that just during this lockdown, just to keep me going and encourage me to go out and get some exercise and walk long distances. So I've got some interesting stuff to show there as well. But yeah, that'll be next video. Thanks very much, everybody. Check out my next video. Bye.